So my name is Pushpita Prasad. I am here representing the Hindu community. Hinduism is the third largest religion in the world, but is not very well known, especially commensurate with its numbers. Our faith also goes by the term Sanatana Dharma. Unlike the august colleagues here, I am not representing any formal Hindu temple. That kind of speaks to the kind of faith we are. It's a very experiential, individualistic faith. And so you will not traditionally find a lot of equivalents of the wonderful people you see here. But I've been a Bay Area resident for about 20 years and spent most of it in the corporate side. But for the past 3 years, I've been focusing heavily on helping my community understand a little bit more about this faith, which is a very super complex faith, and when most of us practicing Hindus can spend multiple lifetimes understanding it ourselves. Thank you. So speaking from the Hindu perspective, this becomes a very tricky topic because we are also one of the oldest surviving faiths in the world today. We are probably the biggest non-Abrahamic religion, which opens us up to a ton of misunderstandings and just not to outright hate. So it's too much to go into history because we have a long and very, very painful history. But if you look at more recent history, you obviously mentioned the Holocaust, which was a horrible blot on humanity. But many people don't realize that last year, 2021, was the 50th anniversary of the 1971 Bengali Hindu genocide, which saw about millions killed, millions fled, so many were killed, 300,000 women were raped. And all of this was done in modern living memory. There are people alive who were alive then, kids who were 6 years old when they walked weeks to escape all of this. So there's so much hidden pain and trauma in the community. And I think what you find is that the pain is so deep that we as survivors don't often want to talk about it. There's a lot of survivors' guilt in fact of having survived, and people just want to move on. So folks who do want to speak actually get targeted, and why are you bringing it up? Why are you raking up these old things? And I bring it up because this is literally 50 years ago. And I'm glad that recently, and a lot of this was, by the way, documented by the US State Department at the time, no less an icon than Senator Ted Kennedy. I have actually read some of his writings to understand how horrifically people were targeted based both on their language but also their religion and what they did to survive, or in many cases didn't survive. But coming here to the Bay Area and to modern times, we are again, I think people don't realize that there's a lot of hidden hate against our community that simmers. Just in August this year, August 21st, in Taco Bell at Fremont, there was a Hindu gentleman who's lived here for 20 plus years who went to pick an online order and was subjected to a 10-minute barrage of hate. And the guy was trying to spit at him and kind of yelling all kinds of slur. You dirty Hindu, you're disgusting, you have how you're in here, you need to And the gentleman thankfully had the presence of mind to record it. So he did share his experience, but there's so much of this that happens and people generally don't have the presence of mind to either stay calm or record it or file a police report. But I talked to this gentleman myself and he was just in deep shock. He's like, I just like he has a child just like many of your guys' ages, and his son wanted something from Taco Bell, so he went in to pick up and was not expecting to get a barrage of 10-minute assault as a result of that. Rutgers University released a report in July of this year that said that there was a really shocking rise in hate, online hate against the Hindu community, and what they actually they were surprised to discover it themselves because it was something that kind of floats under the surface. Most people don't realize it. So the researchers were very surprised to find it, and they were even more surprised to find the transfer of a lot of anti-Semitic tropes onto the Hindu community, down to the images, there's some images that are pretty prevalent through history and have now been sort of tailored to the Hindu community by giving them a brown skin dressing them in orange robes. Orange is our sacred color, and making sure that they're wearing a tilak or a bindi, which is what I'm wearing, and a swastika, just to make sure that people are not thinking this is not generic brown hate. Of course, there's a lot of anti-Asian hate, there's a lot of racism, and all of that doesn't decry the fact that there is a lot of hate we face simply for our faith. I mean, we are very different. When you ask us who our God is, we have lots of them, we have lots of deities, our practices are different, and naturally, as Rabbi said, being different brings with it, in a place like the Bay Area, there's a lot of acceptance and understanding, but in many, many other parts and among many, many other people, the more different you are, the more hate you start to attract. So this is something that I feel very personally, this is something I devote a lot of time to. Also, again, speaking to the Bay Area, just last month in Santa Clara County, hate charges were filed against a man who had attacked about 14 Hindu women over the past 2 years, singling them out for their dress and appearance. I mean, of course, there was an economic motive too, but he was kind of picking on them based on how they looked and what they practiced. So a lot of deep pain around this issue, and I think I've taken more than my fair share. Sorry about that.
Sarah, what does your faith say about love versus hatred? You can also kind of frame it as a source of good versus evil. And then to elaborate just really quick, what do you think we need more of in our conversations in our community to bring about more unity and more love and to work against hate?
I think one of the problems with the modern world is an excessive binary way of looking at things. You like something and you don't like it, it's right or wrong. And I think that breeds a lot of this sort of linear way, binary way of looking at things is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of my religion, responsible for a lot of the problems we face in the world, because it's got, if you have a my way or a highway kind of approach, you're obviously setting yourself up for conflict with people. And I think Hinduism is a very pluralistic faith in the sense that people think we have a lot of deities as well. And it's not about tolerance, because tolerance is a negative word. Tolerance sort of implies that I don't really like you, but I'm going to put up with you. So even when people say we're a tolerant society, that's better than being an intolerant society. But what we really should be striving for is mutual respect. We don't have to agree. Each of us has our preferred way of doing things. But we should respect one another for whatever path we have chosen, and that is at the bedrock what my faith teaches me to do. And I think this binary way, if we can get out of it, it actually causes a lot of harm. I just want to give an example to help you guys understand what I'm talking about. So, in our faith, traditionally, gender fluidity is a big part of, you'll find it in a lot of our texts. Some of our most major deities have gender fluid roles. And this was not an issue for society in India for centuries and centuries altogether. Till the British colonized us, and coming with their set of morality, which was grounded in a certain religion, they were very perturbed by what they saw as immoral behavior with people being allowed to embrace different genders and identities, etc. And they actually passed a law in the 1860s that outlawed it. And they put in a lot of procedures that really victimized anybody who was LGBTQ or they couldn't completely stamp it out, which is why even as they left, India has a massive trans community and trans mayor and trans, you can identify as a trans on your passport application and things like that. But it took 100 years for that law to be removed. But I think the damage from this kind of binary, because they didn't have to become gender fluid themselves, right? They just had to let those who were gender fluid or wanted to identify a different way, let it be, respect them or even tolerate them. But the binary kind of thinking forced them into saying, I think being gender fluid or trans is evil and I'm going to legislate about it and bind it out. So that is something I think we are seeing even in the modern day world. A lot of tendency to say whatever I believe in today is right and everything else must be stamped out, whether it's policy or law or whatever procedures we have. And I think I would just ask everybody to warn against that, because the folks who passed that law in 1860s in India were firmly convinced that they were on the right side of history and doing the moral thing. And people who do that today are equally firmly convinced, so let's make sure we're not on the wrong side of history 100 years later. Thank you.
And the question is, as you guys leave today, what is your faith, or what do you want our young people to leave today knowing, believing about themselves?
So, how many of you know the greeting Namaste? So, a fair amount of you know. So, it's a wonderful way to answer this question, because Namaste is basically a Sanskrit word that is encompassing the thought that the divine in me goes to the divine in you. So Hinduism at its core believes that we each have an Atma, a soul, which is not very well translated as a soul, but there is a spark of divinity in each of us, and it is up to each one of us to see what we make of it and to respect that in the other, no matter how different the body or the habits or the looks of that other person may be, because there's a fundamental divinity in each of us that we can each unite with and seek out for each other. That, I think, is the best way to look at the Hindu faith, which is really not a faith in the way you look at the Abrahamic, Judeo-Christian faiths. But it's also, I think, pluralism and diversity is pretty much the bedrock. Almost every Hindu ritual will end with, or start and end with, invocations of Om Shanti, which is basically asking for peace to the whole world. Not just for the person doing the prayer, not just for the community you are part of, but basically saying, let there be peace on the world, let the forests thrive, let the world be, thriving. There's an ask for peace to the whole world. Because we don't really have these very linear definitions, and we are this and another person is that. So it's a very holistic way of looking at life, religion, the way you live in it, and in the world that you're a part of. So we believe we are kind of holistically integrated with the world, and a lot of our traditions and deities and practices are holistically part of the environments we live in, which is also why there's a lot of diversity, because if you live in a desert environment, you're going to have difference from living in a rainforest and urban versus rural and so on. So I think fundamentally that is where our faith comes from, and there's a lot of empowerment of the self, like you, with that spark of divinity in yourself, you can achieve enormous good, you can also achieve enormous evil. And that is really the concept of karma and dharma, is that you kind of need to take ownership of what you do and what you achieve with that. And there are places to rectify what you do, and what your duty as a student is going to be different from what your duty is as a householder. It will be different from when you're like a grandparent or something else. So it's a very kind of evolutionary and lots of potentials for self-corrections and development along the way.